Hello, it is Tuesday, the 21st of January, and we have a new president and a new regime in America and a new crypto policies to come, not yet announced, of course. So, my last video I spoke about Trump coin and the Melania coin. So many people on Twitter seem to be kind of losing their mind about this and how, you know, I must admit, I joined in a little bit, about how could he do a Solana shitcoin, and there are some quite interesting threads about his connections and how this, I think, came about. But to be quite honest, these meme coins, they do away with the pretense. None of these crypto coins, tokens, or whatever are going to cure cancer, not even Bitcoin. Really, there's not that much difference between Bitcoin and the Trump meme coin. The only difference is that Bitcoin came first many, many years ago. And eventually, the ones that succeed can all become ETFs as well. And I think that accounts for a lot of the price movements that we've seen lately, particularly in Ripple. I asked myself, why is Ripple outperforming and doing so well and Solana is not, for example? And I think one of the reasons is that there's a little bit of the problem at the moment that the SEC still calls Solana and all of those other tokens securities, whereas Ripple really is the only one that has kind of got out from under that and gone through the whole legal process and properly is not a security. So Ripple, I think, had the rally that it had because it is not down as a security and doesn't have to kind of get out of that extra kind of administrative little fandango before it could become an ETF. So this is where we are. So much has happened. Gosh, here we are, the third week of the year, and it's exhausting. I'm exhausted, and I've had pneumonia, but it's exhausting anyway, keeping up with everything that's going on. The last time that Trump was in charge, it was really important to monitor social media because what he said really did move the market, and I think that we're going to be back in that era again. I'm not really I haven't got a true social account, but I do think it's worth turning on notifications for what he says and does from here on in. Okay, so let's start with Bitcoin and where we are, because, not Ripple, I was going to start with Ripple. I'm going to start with Bitcoin and where we are because I'm a little bit concerned. Anyway, whenever I can count 5 waves up in a market, I'm always on watch for it to start topping out. And one thing that Bitcoin is very good at is making a false break higher or a swing failure pattern at highs and lows. So for example, if we go back to 2021, we made a high, then a slightly higher high, false breakout, and that was the top. When we did it in October 2021, we did the same pattern. We made a high and then a slightly higher high, and that was a reversal. And we kind of do that at lows here. When we made the low post FDX in November 2022, we made a low. 2 weeks later, we retested it with a false breakdown, and that was the bottom. So it's a very Bitcoin pattern that potentially we are setting up here, and it kind of does happen at swing highs and swing lows. And one of the reasons I'm a little bit concerned here is I could also make the argument on every kind of swing within this pattern here, I can count 5 waves up. And if we go, in each one of these last 2 swings, Bitcoin added 100%, rallied, we rallied here from 25,000 to 70,000. These are in this most recent swing from the August, 5th of August low, when pretty much everything made a low with the Fed pivot. We went from 50,000 basically to 100,000. So these are really big deal moves, and quite often when you do that, and particularly when you do it a couple of times in the stock market, you will have a period of going sideways. So the really most bullish argument, having done these 5 waves up, potentially would be for altcoin, for Bitcoin to go sideways at 100,000, not collapse. And altcoins have a proper rally, but there are quite a few bigger blue chip crypto coins that I also think potentially may have done 5 waves up as well. And one of the, when I kind of measure the proportions as well, I think, we actually could make a little bit of a top here. And this pattern, if we look under the hood, especially with this, I'm counting this as a 5th wave. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as I said before, when you have a really extended 3rd wave in the middle, quite often the 5th wave, which we have just done, will be truncated, it'll be short, or sometimes it does, or it'll fail. Sometimes it doesn't even quite make a new high, whereas before, normally in crypto, you would see really extended 5th waves. What we have done with Bitcoin is we've seen this really extended wave here in the middle. And if I measure from this first swing low to high here, because waves 1 and 5 often have a relationship, if we can't close and hold above this 105 level, which is where 5 and 1 equals 1, I think we may be a little bit done. And if we look here on the daily, you can see that this equal measured move relative to wave 1 is where we're kind of going sideways and haven't been able to close above. We're kind of flirting with it today. And so I'm watching this to see if we can really push higher. But at this point, I'm actually taking some off. I'm taking some profit in Bitcoin because I think that I don't have reversal here. But if we are going to have an alt season, and Bitcoin is just going to chop around sideways, I don't want to get chopped up. I do think that this is one of those levels where I don't want to be disappointed later that I didn't pay myself and this turns into a bigger reversal. And I would like to have some free for other opportunities. And when I look around, for example, one of the charts that's been very similar to Bitcoin is Solana. And I've been looking at this Solana against ETH because I see a lot of people moving into ETH, and I think ETH is being underperforming. So if we're going to have an altcoin season, ETH should outperform. And when I look at Solana against ETH, I think we can see the same pattern from the low in 2022, 5 waves up, and potentially, we're done here. And if we look at Solana against the US dollar, which one should we look at? Let's whenever you get this kind of double top pattern here, which we've got, again, we've got this Bitcoin swing failure, which is also at the previous highs from 2021. And anyway, I count this, I can count 5 waves up again from this 2022 low. It's made very, very similar patterns to Bitcoin. And also, if we measure back to the low from 2020 to this first swing high, we now have, as you know, I'm a zigzag girl, I'm always looking at these equal measured moves, but we have also done a big ABC equal measured move by tagging this 275 level. So what's a reversal going to look like? Whenever you see this pattern, I think it's worth taking a little bit off. This is not a reversal. I wouldn't, pile into big shorts or anything. I just think that maybe, sometimes when events happen, quite a lot of it's priced in, and we could have a little bit of volatility here. At the moment, this is no way a bearish reversal pattern at all. We've had a really strong move higher last week going into this election. I'm just going to tidy up my chart here and take this off. 50% back of this big weekly candle, in terms of candlesticks, would be just a normal pullback in a strong uptrend, and that's back at 223, a little bit lower than where we are here, and that's also kind of where all of these daily moving averages are. So I would not be surprised if this gets a little bit choppy and sideways and difficult at the moment. And so again, I don't think this is a bearish reversal. But particularly in Bitcoin, I think that maybe we chop sideways for a bit. And if you don't want to be in that, it may be worth paying yourself some at the highs rather than waiting for it to pull back quite a long way, and just have your powder ready for more opportunities. Let's take a look at a few more. Sorry, I'm a bit... having pneumonia is no fun, God. It gets you really out of breath. Let's talk about MicroStrategy as well, because for me, MicroStrategy has been quite a good leading indicator of weakness, in Bitcoin, and what we have done from the lows here. This all looks very good, doesn't it? Whenever I see a rally, though, after what I think is a big bullish pullback, one of the things that makes me nervous is if all you see is an ABC or an equal measured move, because it says it's corrective and not a new upswing. And that kind of, if you look here, is where we are. The equal measured move here in MicroStrategy is at 401. We would need to close and hold above 401 to be continuing higher, and then the next upside target for me would be 462, and then a retest of the highs in this one. Potentially all we have done is a corrective equal measured move here. Now, do I think we're going to collapse imminently today? No, so far this week seems really quiet. Most of the big swingers are in Davos for the World Economic Forum, and even Trump is going to address it on Wednesday. And really kind of in big macro news, it all comes next week. We've got the Bank of Canada, we've got the Fed, and we have got the ECB. So we're going to get rate decisions, and then of course we've got a big lineup of announcements from Trump to come. And I don't know if, with everything going on in the world, whether crypto is going to be his first priority. He must be so happy with the money he's made in the Trump and Melania coins. So I don't know, he's going to be rushing to do much more at the moment. And so I'm not entirely sure, especially when I look at this, unless we can get above 401 in MicroStrategy, we may be a little bit done here and see a little bit of a bigger pullback or another leg lower. One thing that's happening this week, which is unusual, normally, now that Bitcoin's an ETF and so is Ethereum, and also, we've got to mention how the options on the ETF market have absolutely, within 2 months, the volume, it's institutional level liquidity and volume, and really succeeded as well. And so Bitcoin now becomes an asset that trades like quite a lot of other regular mainstream market assets. And that means that last week, we were unlikely to see a bearish reversal last week because it was options expiration, as I said. But this is one of those weird months. Normally, I would say that you would not see a bigger sell-off or a pullback in a market until the VIX options expire, because so many people hedge against that in the VIX. And this is one of the, normally the VIX options expire the same week as all of the other stock index options and stock options. But this is one of those unusual weeks where the VIX options expire the following week. So they expire tomorrow. So I think if we are going to see some weakness or a bigger pullback and a rollover, it's likely to come tomorrow after the VIX options expire. So for now, we're holding up, but I think if we are going to see some weakness, it will come after tomorrow. And now I count kind of Bitcoin and ETH in those. So MicroStrategy, unless we can push above 401, potentially this is a little bit of a bearish pattern and another three-wave move, just like we saw here from the three-wave move at the end of November. And we could see another leg lower, potentially back down. I'm going to go to the weekly. I keep looking at that gap getting filled and that daily 200 moving average potentially. Let's see, I think they would all have to fall together, but certainly the disappointment and shock horror in the crypto world over the Trump and Melania meme coins is quite hilarious. Okay, let's talk about a couple more, and then I'm going to do a separate request video because I run out of breath. Let's talk about Ripple and Doge first of all. Now, Ripple had a super run and has retested the highs, and it's done exactly what Solana has done, has paused at previous highs. Now, whatever strategy you trade, big, important previous swing highs and swing lows are always important support and resistance levels, and you will, even if you're going to blast through, quite often the first time you touch these big levels, you'll have a little bit of reaction from them. And in Ripple, if we look back to that July low that we made here, and here's the low when this started in November, I can count 5 waves up, unfortunately. So look, here's a 1, and then we have a big 3-wave correction, and then we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this previous high here was always my target. Now we're at quite an interesting level relative to the swing that we made from 2020 to 2021 in Ripple, in that we have reached 1.618 of this first swing. That's a very common ratio for a wave 3. So I think from the low we made in March 2020, this is a wave 1, 2, and we've made a wave 3 in Ripple. And that kind of means when you've completed that and you've got 5 waves up, you're a little bit at risk that you pull back to the previous wave 4 swing low, which would mean back down to 2. And potentially, if I measure fib retrace levels from this low here, potentially we could come a little bit lower than that, maybe 1.75. And so now, are we going to do that? I'm saying we could. I don't know. It's just one of those really big deal levels where if you've held Ripple all this time, this is one of those levels where you kind of need to pay yourself some and wait for a little bit of a bigger pullback, because we got really overbought here. We stretched a really long way from these weekly moving averages, and we are liable for a little bit of a snapback rally. Now, I do think that Ripple has the fastest case for an ETF, but it could be a while coming, and we could see a little bit of a bigger pullback before that happens. Now, at the moment, there is no bearish reversal. There's no reason to sell it. It's just if we retest these highs, and if we can't push and hold above that 3.31 protected level, then I think it's a good place to maybe pay yourself some. If we push above and we hold above 3.3, no reason to not buy yourself some more back. And then, yeah, we can talk about targets. The next target for me would be 4, basically 3.99, which is where this swing would be twice or 2 times that first swing. And then, and 2 is a fib number, and then 5.13 would be my next upside. But because we are so overbought, buying new positions here without selling some first and waiting to see if it can break out, it's a good idea. Now, if you're one of these people, that are going to jump in and out and get chopped up, probably better just to hold on to your Ripple and ride the bull back out, because you can give an awful lot of profit back by jumping in and out. But for me, I would take some, pay yourself some, keep a soldier in the race if you want, and maybe look away and wait for this to play out, because just because we are so overbought, I think we could see a little bit of a bigger pullback. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is Doge, and then I am going to do another video for all of the other altcoins that we've got requests from. I've got the wrong one up here, Aave, which I was pretty bullish. Now, big picture, when I look at Doge, I'm going to start here with Doge and take everything off. For me, this is a little bit of we are diddling in the middle. If I switch this to a log chart so that I can see all the price, and we look at fib retrace levels, I'm going to measure from the all-time low in Doge in 2015 to the high that we made here. I'm going to take it out of log scale so we're looking at it. So there's this thing called the golden ratio zone, which is in between the 61.8 fib retrace and the 38.2, where you tend to go sideways in the middle and the bulls and bears fight it out, and there is a little bit of a pivot level, usually through the middle, the 50%. So all-time lows to all-time highs in Doge is 0.369, and it's just one of those kind of levels. And if you have a look, you can see when we got above it, it was support, and we are going sideways with completely flat moving averages here, right at this middle point. And what's interesting, if I go back to the weekly, let's take this off, even if I measure it from the high that we made in 2021 to this low, we are still, in that 61.8, 38.2 golden ratio zone. But here we can say, okay, well, the 50% retrace from that high is here a little bit higher at 0.39. And here actually we could argue that that's the level that the market's looking at, this 0.39 level. And so we really are, in fact, in the middle here of the middle of a sideways consolidation zone. And I honestly don't know which way we are going to break out. But when I look at this, it has a little bit of a look of we've made our first swing lower. Here's our B wave. And I think we potentially are setting up another swing lower. Now, the thing about a golden ratio zone like this, so here's our golden ratio zone like this, and you expect to go back and forward in it. If you break underneath this 38.2, your first target's down to this 236 fib, which would be here, 0.21. So if we break out of this consolidation zone, we're going to come back to the daily 200 moving average and 0.21, and that's going to be our buy level. And we're going to make a lovely big ABC, hopefully. In fact, if we draw it, it would look pretty much like it lines up. Here's our first swing. If we make a second swing lower, that brings us down here. And so if you like Doge and everything else, this is the big Doge, not the Department of Government Efficiency meme coin token. That's where I would be lining up to buy this. And I might, whilst it's doing this and chopping everybody up, that would be a good plan. But what happens if we break out of the top of this 61.8, 38.2 zone? Then the target usually is the 786. So if we can hold above 0.47, next up would be 0.59 in Doge. And really here in the middle, we are unfortunately just going sideways. Okay, if there's a altcoin you'd like me to look at, let me know. I'll be back with another video.